Good evening, everybody. Here we are for the second of the series of In Conversation With, and tonight we're talking about music education, our own experiences, our career, and what we feel is important, where we think music education is going, where we've come from, what the current situation is, and maybe what the future brings for music education, especially in this unprecedented time that we find ourselves in. And tonight, my guest is Sarah Lofthouse, one of our first flute players and currently head of performing arts. That's right, Sarah? Yeah, head of performing arts at Days High School. We are going to have quite an informal chat. If you saw the little chat that Adam and I did, it's more sort of a conversation. Really is a conversation than an interview. And if you'd like to ask questions as we go through, if you think, oh, that sparked a point of interest and to have a question about that, if you can use the chat function, which appears at the bottom of the screen, just on the icons at the bottom, and then you can type a message in there. Sarah and I have got those chat boxes up on the screen. We'll see what you might want to ask us, and we'll endeavour to answer it. If you can only ask us questions we have the answers for, that would be much appreciated.
You are meant to know that.
But yeah, anything at all you want to talk about as we're discussing. It's probably important to do a little disclaimer at this point. We're not going to get political about things, but any expressed in this video are those of our own, not necessarily those of the institutions we have it for, do work for, or may work for in the future. So there we are, that's the legal bit out of the way. And it is being recorded, so do be nice in what you type in the chat. We're recording this to go out onto YouTube and onto our members' Facebook page. So if you're watching this in the future, welcome, hello, hope you enjoyed the last we did, and we hope you enjoy chatting about music education. Straight away, Gareth's in there with a question. Can you quickly summarise your career to date, Phil? Well, during COVID, it's very easy, non-existent, Gareth. But I'll explain up to that. Yeah, both Sarah and I are going to talk about art in music education, and also where we started. And I think that's now what we're going to start with, where it all started for us and what sparked our sort of love of music and performing and teaching music with others, what it meant to us at the time, and how we want to try and pass that on to our students. Of all ages, as you'll see, we teach a wide range of people. So, Sarah, welcome. Hello.
Hello.
It's really good to see you. Thanks for joining us. Maybe you could give me a bit of a summary of your musical experiences as a student before you went into teaching, and what sort of got you started along the track that you are on.
Yeah, absolutely. So my first kind of experiences with music were right back in primary school in about year 2. Actually first picked up a flute. I found my mum's. So my mum used to play the flute, not, to a particularly high standard, but during secondary school. Is
she watching today?
She will watch this later, but she was
exceptional.
She would definitely agree. It was a hobby during school, but anyway, I found a flute and just kind of had a go. Decided that I wanted to learn. So when I was about 6, actually started lessons in primary school and just kind of went from there. I was really, really lucky to have all the options to be involved in like extracurricular music. So I was pushed to be involved in always having peripatetic lessons during school, then moving to having private lessons outside school, getting involved in school ensembles, orchestras, and that's where my kind of love for it started, with the whole social aspect of it.
So do you think your primary school was a particularly musical school then? Was there a lot of music going on at primary school for you at that time?
I remember bits of classroom music. I remember doing recordings in classroom, little bits like that. But the extracurricular, so our woodwind Perry teacher was particularly good. I remember her now, and I was 6. But a lot of people in our school played the flute, played woodwind instruments. So I've still got little pictures and photo albums of all of us in the school hall doing little concerts, dressed up as ABBA, things like that. So that's what sparked it, the social side, loads going on
It
outside.
was the dressing up as ABBA that did it for you, wasn't it?
Of
Yeah.
course.
It's interesting because Sarah and I had a brief conversation last night in preparation for tonight, and without mentioning the primary school, it turns out we went to the same primary school, and I think I knew that in the back of my head, only about a decade apart, which makes me feel older than I want to feel, really. But when I went to that primary school, there wasn't any music going on, really. I was the only student in a fairly small, but about 350 children, I think, primary school who played a musical instrument other than the school choir, and there was a sort of record group as well. But other than that, there was no instrumental lessons going on or anything. So I was somewhat of a rarity. And I remember with great fondness some of the school lessons in music where we would compose, and all the percussion instruments would come out and things like that, and we'd form groups. And I have a very vivid memory. Must have been quite early on in playing the saxophone, and rather pretentiously conducting my own school group at the same time, in the classroom setting. And I sort of felt quite a bit special because I was the only child who did play an instrument. I quite liked that. It's probably where my ego comes from. You're not supposed to agree to that.
No.
So I really quite enjoyed that. But I was the only person there, and I actually got thrown out of the recorder group for improvising. So I was asked to play the tune, not the not what I thought it was or what I wanted to play, because I thought it was better. So I was already sort of jamming a bit in primary school. Jazz recorder, that's a real man's instrument.
A new one.
So in the 10 years between us, obviously that has changed quite significantly at primary school level.
It's interesting how just what's going on can spark someone's interest, and if even just that social side of things going on in a school can then actually set you up for, I didn't know at that point I was going to a career in music. I just loved going to the clubs and playing in the groups and making friends, that actually just then.
And that's so important as well, because if I think coming from a very musical family, I think I always had in my mind, in fact I know I always had in my mind, was going to do something in music. I wanted to be a musician from an early age, and soon after that I realized I wanted to share my love of music with other people and teach it as well. So I sort of had that idea already, but perhaps if you'd not been given the opportunities you'd been given in primary school, you wouldn't have discovered this.
No. My family say my mum played the flute like just as a hobby in secondary school, and that was it. None of the rest of my family, or like close family in terms of parents, siblings, are musical at all. So it's just a case of me finding the flute and starting the lessons, and obviously just a bit of the buzz that I had going on in school, which then carried on into secondary school, just getting involved in as many extracurricular activities, getting that social side of it, the breaks and lunch times in the music department, the choirs. Those opportunities are what sparked it for me, which is.
Yeah. Did you get more opportunities as you went to high school?
Yeah, so when I was at secondary school, there were loads of extracurricular opportunities, like 3 different choirs, orchestra, the woodwind group. A bit like you were saying about feeling special at primary school. There was an orchestra that was mainly for upper school and secondary school, and so I actually then got asked to join that earlier, and I had to go and get the bus to a different site. So that was kind of my little special feeling of being in that orchestra when there weren't many people in lower years there. So that's kind of that excitement, and then playing with at that time this amazing big orchestra, that was the I suppose the encouragement to wanting to improve. So there was a lot going on at school, extracurricular wise, that I still remember.
Yeah, that's that. I think that's one of the most important things about playing a musical instrument, isn't it? If you,
Yeah,
as soon as you start play, you need to join an ensemble
yeah,
because it's much more exciting, as we all know as members of the wind orchestra, playing with other people, not playing on your own, and I find with my students now, the sooner I can get them involved in an ensemble, the better it is, and the more chance they have of actually continuing. They improve quicker, they enjoy it more, they make much more social um, connections, and it becomes a real lifestyle rather than just a hobby, I think, which is so important. And I found that when I went to high school, I went from a relatively sort of quiet and small primary school where there wasn't that much music going on to going to a very musical high school. I think purely by chance, really. The school wasn't chosen because it was a particularly musical school, but at that time as well, it was very musical. There was lots of musicians going. There was very good music service involvement, and that's where I found out the county ensembles, and joined up, and started playing with all the Sefton youth ensembles, which I know many of our members have passed through as well. So that really opened my eyes then to a lot more ensemble playing. But before that, I was in MWO because I joined MWO when I was 10 years ago. I'll let that one sink in for everybody. So I was really, I was really excited to the band. I remember sort of thinking, wow, I'm going to go and play in a band full of adults,
mm,
and it was a really big thing for me, that. And
yeah,
I think about the young members we have in MWO currently, how lucky they are to come along and sit next to some very, very experienced musicians and make music together. And there we see how music completely breaks down any age barrier as well as social barrier, or anything like that. And it really does bring us all together as a community. And I think when you're involved in music in a school, the school music department gets that community feel that we kind of have in MWO, doesn't it? And I certainly felt part of a musical community through my formative years in education. And I guess you felt the same, really, that the music
yeah,
department was a safe haven.
definitely. And then it was your place to go at breaks and lunchtimes. And as you said, with the age difference, that gap goes. And I find that where I'm working now is you find, you keep the rooms open at breaks and lunches. You find year 11s showing year 7s things, and or them having a bit of a performance, year 11s, and younger people's watching. It's that kind of like aspiration, and which I
Yeah.
found when I was at school as well. That age barrier does go with people like in the department.
And I really think that the arts bring people together like that,
Yeah,
probably more than anything else, really. I mean, you wouldn't find an A-level maths student, doing maths with a year 7, would you? Whereas you would find that in music, and that's not uncommon, and drama and art for that matter,
yeah,
and dance, and what have you. Collaborative working is really at the heart of what we do. So I think it's fair to say we both had a very good musical education through school, and post school. I studied at Liverpool Hope University, did my music degree there. Did you do yours at Manchester, or have I made that
University of
up?
Salford.
Right.
Yeah, for degree, and then straight on to PGC from the degree, which was a joint course with the Royal Northern College of Music and Manchester Metropolitan University. So I got the bit of instrumental teaching from the RNCM and the classroom teaching from Manchester Metropolitan. So that I really enjoyed that course, following on from
Yeah.
Salford, which was the all-rounded degree. Doing the arranging, the composing, the performing, the conducting, and then going on to again keeping my options open, doing the peripatetic side of placements and the classroom side of placements during PGCE, which I actually really enjoyed, like a stint in the music service as well. Even though I chose to go down the classroom route, it was nice to work in that environment, and I feel like it makes me, understand the peripatetic teachers I have as well, knowing that
Yes, you've been on that side of things, haven't you? Yeah, yeah. So, you know, we both have good sort of higher education experiences, but we wouldn't got there had we not had that earlier stuff that went on, really. I think, you know, it all comes from the grassroots, doesn't it? The bottom of the pyramid has to be very large. Um, so, Gareth, we get round to your question about summarising careers, and we'll both do that. Mine's probably a little bit more complex than Sarah's in some way. I started teaching quite early on privately. It's something I've always wanted to do, and something I've continued to do right the way through my career at varying levels. Straight out of university, I got a job with Shotton Music Service, which was the music service that taught me, and I was involved in a lot of the ensembles as a student. So it was really lovely to go back into that situation and work alongside colleagues that had previously taught me or directed the ensembles that I directed. And I spent 12 years doing that, I loved them very much. A lot of my students came along to MWO. In fact, some of my students that I taught in Shotton are still in MWO, which is lovely. And some have gone to university and come back. You know, so it's really nice to have that kind of holistic approach for those students. After that, I'm sort of been head of music centre for a little while. Whilst I was there, I went more freelance and did more private teaching. I did a bit of private school. So obviously there's a pair teaching in primary schools and secondary schools. So I've taught primary school, secondary school, state, private education. And then after that, I moved into higher education teaching, and I've done some teaching at Edge Hill University, and I've done some teaching at Liverpool Hope University, which, for those of you listening in the UK, was where I did my degree. So once again, I'm back alongside, you know, working with colleagues who once taught me. So it's nice to sit in the cafeteria and share a coffee with your own music professor. And things like that, and work alongside them. And then that is all alongside also a performing career, which takes a long time to build up. You know, I've been seriously trying to build my own performance career up for 20 years, really. So that's now takes up a large part of my time. So my educational work now, although I treat directing many of the ensembles that I direct as an educational endeavour as well. But the majority of my educational work now is teaching workshops, guest lecturing at universities, and things like that. So I've gone right the way through from primary to higher education in pretty much every setting. So I've had a very varied career in music education to date, and long may it continue. That's what I say. But that I'm now something alongside gigging as well. So Sarah, in a nutshell, do you want to give us your career?
A lot kind of simpler in many respects. So I did my degree at Salford, went on straight on to do my PGCE, which, as I said before, had both the peripatetic side and the classroom side, which I really enjoyed. And then I went on to get my first teaching post, just as teacher of music. So I got to work alongside some other, you know, experienced teachers, build up kind of a lot of, you know, understanding, a lot of knowledge, a lot of, you know, different technique strategies. And then I got my job now, which is head of performing arts, so music, dance and drama. So a lot more kind of streamlined, but throughout the process, I've done like private teaching on and off. So whilst I was at university, I did quite a lot of private teaching, both on piano, flute, saxophone. And that's kind of on and off throughout until PGCE, where then I focused on the classroom side. So it's really nice to have experienced it from different, you know, private teaching, peripatetic and classroom. And I say it kind of makes me understand, having sat in different, or been in different places, different shoes, you get that area of understanding, and it's all about them working together. You know, they're all important. It's all about giving the pupils that more the whole experience, all-rounded experience, to make it work. You can't just have one without the other. So yeah, quite a streamlined route to where I am now.
Yeah. It's kind of more like that really through the world of music education. But of course, we're all lifelong learners, aren't we? That's the buzzword. And yeah, it wasn't so long ago that you were having clarinet lessons with me to bring your clarinet skills to the same sort of level as your flute and saxophone. So it's interesting, and of course now I see a lot of adult learners. Yeah. So I see, beginners who may have just retired and decided to learn to play the saxophone or the clarinet, flute, and they want to start. Or I see very proficient saxophone players who want to learn to play the clarinet, or vice versa. I often come across, adult learners who maybe have played in school and have come back to it. And really, it's all about the same kind of approach, I think, isn't it? It's about engaging students and getting them to, embrace something they enjoy doing, making it relevant for them, and getting them into an ensemble as quickly as possible, which is why I'm so proud of what we do with Maghull Wind Orchestra, because we can allow somebody who is not very experienced to come in and straight away sit down next to somebody who is very experienced and learn by doing, and I think that's...
by playing with the musicians, and musicians that are better than you, that's, going to be the best way of improving, because as well, everyone likes to do well, and everyone likes to get the praise, no matter how old you are, or to feel like you're doing a good job or improving. So getting a different standard and sitting with different people is always the best way of actually improving, and the most enjoyable way as well.
I always tell a lovely story from when it was quite early on in my teaching career, and quite early on in me conducting the band as well. And I had an alto saxophone student who was about 12 or 13, young girl, and she sat next to one of our alto sax players who was quite advanced in years, I think is the polite way of putting it. He was in his late 80s, I think. And these two sat next to each other, and she was far the better player, but he would set her music stand up for her and make sure she had a chair. And when he got lost, she'd go, "We're up to there." And at band, they were the best of friends. Now, when would a 13-year-old girl be friends with an 80-odd-year-old alto saxophone playing chap? It really sort of summed up the whole ethos of the band, and education is just learning from each other, and that reciprocal kind of arrangement, which I really like. So what could you maybe in a nutshell sort of describe to me the difference you think there is between being a head of music, which obviously you're still head of music, as opposed to being a kind of all singing, all dancing head of performing arts? Because I know when I was involved in high school, there was a big shift from having the kind of head of dance, head of drama, head of music, to one overarching head of performing arts. Do you think that is a better way to work, bringing everybody together, or does it water things down a little bit?
I think it works well, and I think the students, we've had plenty of comments on the students, because we've been trying to make it a performing arts department. So we've created a logo, created little t-shirts, and people have actually commented on, they didn't realise that music was one of the performing arts.
Gosh, really?
Yes,
right.
Like, why does it say performing arts when I'm in music? So I've actually found that I've been teaching pupils that actually music is one of the performing arts. So it's trying to give them that whole view. They think performing arts kind of as drama. So actually making it a department and more of a kind of a faculty in a lot of ways works really well. And then when you come to kind of school productions, you get the pupils coming along who are involved in the different aspects. Whereas instead of just, so even, just the musicians will come and want to be part of the band or the chorus singing, you've got the people who aren't necessarily musicians who really want to be part of the dancing. So it kind of does bring everyone together. And even the whole, in the last production we did, where people who just wanted to be backstage or do the lighting, help with the lighting. Or
it's all
Yeah,
performing arts, isn't it? Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
exactly. And even wanted to do runners between stage and backstage. They want, you know, people wanting to be involved in that. So it takes away sometimes people's don't want to get things wrong. So, you know, if they say, "Oh, I'm not very good at music, I'm not very good at drama," it kind of actually allows people to be involved a little bit.
Why do you think students want to be involved in the performing arts, and in particular, why do you think students to be involved in music?
So they want to be, I think it's generally about the social side of it, I'd say, as well as the kind of the pride they get out of it. So
Mm.
the whole performing arts, obviously people want, I struggle sometimes to get people involved, yet when they do, they absolutely love it. And they love the buzz, they love, you know, from shows, they, you know, even weekend rehearsals, they, you know, really, really enjoy. It's sometimes trying to find, you have some people who haven't had maybe the background that we had in primary school and secondary school, don't know it's there. So it's about trying to get the pupils in the classroom in the general curriculum actually giving them that musical opportunity and making
Yeah,
them understand.
there's many skills that are transferable across
Oh,
music, and I think I'm blown away by the fact that the students have come to you and said we weren't sure that music was a performing art,
yeah,
because I've always taken the view that music should be taught through performance.
oh yeah, yeah,
You know, and I'm very keen to do that. And the way, you know, our members know, the way I rehearse the band is by doing lots of playing. It's a very musical rehearsal. We do lots of playing, not possibly too much talking from me. I don't know. I'll let the members decide, but hopefully not too much kind of chalk and talk from the guy
yeah,
at the front. But you know, sort of actually playing and making things musical, because I think that's the most exciting thing about music is the performance element of it. And let's face it, why do we all go to band on a Tuesday night? Because we enjoy it and
yeah,
it's fun and we get to do something we really love to do. So it's about fostering that love of music, isn't it? And that
yeah.
enjoyment.
And in some of the classroom side, it's about, I kind of linked with that, it's about giving them the actual, the chance to perform, to be practical, and then, you know, putting in the keywords they need to know, or how to notate it, or how to write it, or, you know, pronounce things afterwards. So I always try to get them practically involved as much as possible. And also then you engage the pupils who don't know, you know, who haven't, maybe don't realize that they actually enjoy music, you know,
Yeah.
try to get them involved first.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got a very wide demographic in the wind orchestra, you know, and I see lots of students of various ages, and everybody's had a very, very different experience of music in school. I mean, even the two of us through primary school, our experiences were vastly different.
Mm.
Um, so everybody seems to have a different experience. Some people's experience of school in music has been really, really good, and other people's has been far less than that. You know, I see a lot of adults, particularly, who said, "Oh, I hated music at school. I just hated it. It was boring, and I didn't enjoy it. But I've always really wanted to play a saxophone. I didn't have the opportunity to do that." And you hear all the horror stories right through to the success stories and everything in between. And I remember my school music lessons would sometimes leave a bit to be desired, because I felt like I already knew that bit and I'd like to be pushed a bit further and find out more because of what I was doing outside of school. Um, so how would you describe your kind of classroom music lessons, rather than the extracurricular and the shows and the bands and the instrumental lessons that you've got going on in your department? How do you engage those disaffected year nines who don't want to join in, and how do you get them enthused in the curriculum lessons?
Yeah, so I feel my role is giving everyone a musical experience. You know, I feel that I was advantaged. Obviously, a lot of parents, you know, don't, you know, they might think about sports, or they might, you know, it depends on what their background was. So I want to give everyone that musical experience. So my main approach is get everyone practically in music making. So thinking about your topics, thinking about how to get everyone involved. You know, like we do topics that will, if someone walked in from the outside, it would look like it was chaos, yet everyone's on task and everyone's excited and everyone is doing music. So it's about getting them practically involved and actually just making sure that it's achievable. I find a lot of people tell me, but I can't do music, or I can't, but so it's making it as step-by-step approach and through all the modeling that actually they can. So if you just kind of played something on piano or played, you know, whatever, you know, topic you were doing, they'd say, but I can't do that. So
yeah, you often see that with students, don't you? Of all ages, I can't do that. They have a preconceived idea that this is impossible for them. You know,
or they're not musical. You know that
yeah.
it's everyone's just you're born with it, or you're not. But it's not something you can improve. So it's like, well, no, you can't yet. But you know, I couldn't just go and do a new skill straight away without learning how to do it and practicing it. So it's about making it actually accessible, actually kind of hands-on, modeling it and kind of letting them practice and explore, and as well as just obviously your choice of topics.
I teach a lot of jazz improvisation these days, and sometimes if I do a workshop with students, of actually any age from primary school, even in primary school, they sort of have this preconceived idea that they can't improvise, you know.
Yeah.
And students will say to me, they'll say, but I can't improvise. I need it written down. I can't improvise. And I say, well, you may say you can't improvise, and that's fair enough. But if that's the case, you've worked out your responses to every conversation you've had today. And that's weird.
Yeah.
You know, we're improvising all the time. And in fact, we're being musical all the time in our speech. When we're listening to music, music is all around us all the time. So even if you're not playing an instrument, you're always involved in music in some capacity, you know. There's always something going on. So if you make your lessons very practical, what sort of hands-on experience do your students see in the classroom?
So try and do a wide range of instruments. So obviously your keyboard's one, but I try and only do a certain, like 1 or 2 topics containing keyboards out of like a 6-topic year. So obviously djembes, so African drumming, ukuleles, obviously vocal. So just trying to get as wide a range of instruments, obviously to suit different people's kind of enjoyment as well. I also do a topic on stomp, which is all your jump percussion, body percussion, and that involves then drama because we get them to create a scenario to actually do some choreography to it as well. So it's trying to actually embrace everyone's different ideas and different. Some students find it hard to be creative, and that's where the challenge is. You can get some students who are really bright, really academic, but when it comes to being creative, they really struggle. So it's trying to get them, like even if I was doing blues, to get them to do little improvisations using the blues scale, which sometimes goes right out of people's comfort zones.
Yeah.
So it's just the wide variety of different topics. And even if you're just doing rhythm, I wouldn't just talk about different rhythms and draw them on the board. It's all about call and response. It's all about clapping, you know, different like jump percussion, body percussion, even just learning rhythms, doing different words to rhythms. So just trying to make it as actually them doing it as possible. And then you actually find then people who come in then at breaks and lunchtimes often ask, oh, can I just try that on the ukulele or the djembe that we were doing in lesson? Or can I just go and get my book and try that on keyboard? So then they come back and start practicing. So they want to then improve. Whereas if we hadn't done it in lessons, they'd never know that they actually enjoyed playing that on the ukulele or could do it on a djembe.
I mean, just listening to you talk makes me feel really excited. I want to come to your classroom and I want to join in African drumming and do a ukulele module with you. And I can feel excited about that because that's a skill I haven't got, and I would love to have a go at doing that in such a practical, engaged and involved way. And as you're talking,
that's the way it should be.
Yeah. And as you're talking, I'm feeling all fired up about this idea. And thinking back to the conducting workshop that I did on Zoom a few weeks ago for the MWO members, we taught we want to do another conducting day as soon as we can, and I'll arrange that. But I also wonder if it would be worth the pair of us and the other music teachers in the band getting our heads together and doing maybe a musical skills day.
Yeah,
Where we
absolutely.
could do some djembe drumming and ukulele playing and rhythm work, and I could do some general musicianship, and
Yeah,
we could have a real sort of practical day.
yeah.
So I know Chris is listening. Take some minutes, Chris, and get this out to our members.
Stations, and people could move around the different stations. A
Absolutely.
little
Yeah.
carousel around.
Yeah, I think because we're talking about music education in a very broad manner here, and I think there's a real place at the moment for MWO and groups like ours in the community
Yeah,
to actually provide a service which possibly is becoming diminished in the current climate.
yeah,
There's lots of private teachers out there, and there's lots of private music schools out there offering things like this. But I think also if you're going to be at the forefront of community music making, which I like to think we are really, that perhaps the band should be offering something like this to its members and to potential other members, and maybe going into schools and doing some workshops as well. A lot of the schools we've been into in the past, the students have never heard of a wind orchestra, never mind seen them, and introduce them to these instruments and let them see, what a French horn does compared to a saxophone, etc., etc. I think it's certainly something we need to look at the future, because the current situation of music in the UK is possibly not as good as we'd like it to be. We've painted, I think, a very positive picture because we're very lucky to work in a very positive environment. But with the funding that's going on from year to year and the sort of annual merry-go-round that comes up every September, I saw it firsthand with the music service. After working there for about 10 years, we were all made redundant and then re-employed as self-employed tutors, which is kind of where I decided to make the break and go freelance and into HE and what have you. That funding disappeared and it got diminished, and everything we could offer as a service really became a little bit smaller. So those opportunities for students are then limited slightly. And again, in schools, if the opportunities aren't there for students, we're going to miss out on some students that really could have had the opportunity had it been there. They might not know they want to be
some people don't know about it. That some people don't, say don't get taken to those kind of extracurricular activities. Yeah. They need to be introduced to it, I suppose, in a compulsory way for them then to choose to take it on or get.
Well, that's right. Yeah. Every student is going to be good at something. That might be football or rugby or chess or maths or science or any of the subjects, but you don't know unless you've been given that opportunity to try it. And it seems as if at your institution there's plenty of opportunity to do that and plenty of opportunity to play other instruments as well and have the peripatetic team come in and support them.
Yeah.
Could you tell us a little bit about your peripatetic side to the department as well? So for anybody watching that's visiting music tutors who come in to the school, in fact I used to come into your school before you worked there. I think I came into your other place of work when you worked there, didn't I? Or did I not?
I think you did actually.
Yeah, I think possibly to do some after school stuff or something like that. So it's a whole team of teachers it's a whole team of teachers that come in and teach instrumental lessons. So what sort of thing have you got ongoing with that, and why do you think that benefits the department?
Yeah, so currently we offer guitar lessons, drum lessons, woodwinds. So at the minute we've only got flute and clarinet. But there is opportunity of saxophone, singing, piano. We also offer these DJ lessons, so it's with a different company, so it's not with the music service, but it's the same idea. And they come in and do DJ lessons, so we have DJ decks at school that pupils can then continue to practice on at breaks and lunch times. but they come in and offer peripatetic lessons on when DJing, and they absolutely love it, the pupils. So it's just that massive wide range, and even in the guitar lessons they offer acoustic, electric, bass, ukulele. So it allows students to kind of have their take on it as well, and where their interests lie.
I can almost feel the collective groan from the wind orchestra when you said DJ lessons, and 80 odd instrumentalists have all gone, oh. But I tell you what, the amount of inquiries I have for an Ibiza style saxophone player to play alongside a DJ is unbelievable. And when you're prepping students for a career in music, I always think one of the most important things is to be as versatile as possible. Be able to play, be able to conduct and rehearse, be able to improvise, be able to read well, be able to compose, be able to arrange, and be able to perform in any style. And if that means kind of performing Ibiza club classics with a DJ, you can make a very good living out of doing that, And if that sort of sparked at school, I think that's really, really great.
Yeah, it's giving them the opportunity to go down whatever route that they're interested in. The people who are doing the DJ lessons, they're still having to talk about pulse and rhythm and arranging and beats per minute and style and genre. So it's still got a lot of the technical aspects that you don't often think about initially when you say the word DJing.
Gareth says, do either of you do anything with Sky Music Hub? Well, Sky Music Hub was the combination of Sefton School's music service and Knowsley music service. So Sefton and Knowsley came together when the government needed hubs to be formed to bid for the money to then put the provisions into schools. So in a roundabout way, I used to work for Sky Music Hub, although I don't think it become the Sky Music Hub when I'd left and moved on to other things. But it will be from the Sky Music Hub where Sarah gets her peripatetic staff from. So you deal with them, don't you, on a sort of weekly basis coming into?
Yeah, part of the Sefton, obviously being part of Sefton local authority, then with Sky Music Hub being part of like Sefton Music Service, that's where our peripatetic teachers come from.
Yeah, it's a very good hub and a good music service. They do some excellent work with our children and young people in schools, and hopefully they'll be able to get back to that post COVID, and get into that. Which brings us neatly onto what does the future hold for music education? I'm not sure I have the answer to that. I know that I think community organisations such as ourselves need to try and bring music out to people and young people as much as possible and engage in educational type activities as much as we can, in order to give as much opportunity as we can. I mean, nobody can do everything, but we must all do something to help engage young people in music. And if that isn't coming from primary schools because of a lack of funding or whatever, I think it needs to be, the musicians in the community that want to do that, because otherwise we're going to find our membership dwindles in years to come. And I already look around and think we don't have as many young people in the band as we used to do. And I think that's a shame, and I think we need to try and encourage as many young musicians that are out there to come and join in with the ensemble. And I know the young musicians who do join it with MWO absolutely love it, because once again, it's like that 8-year-old Phil. Wow, look, I'm making music with all these adults. I must be good enough to play in this ensemble alongside all these adults, and they get a real, Sarah, you've used this word a lot, they get a real buzz out of it. It's the buzz about it and the buzz you get out of it, and that's why we all do it, isn't it? Because of that enjoyment, that excitement, and we've got to show that is available to young people and students that are there, so that people don't miss out. Ellie says, music and dance movement needs promotion. Glad to hear Sefton schools and other do that. Yeah, I think there's a lot of very positive things going on. Um, but I think we all need to play our part in that, and I think we should,
There are enough enthusiastic people like us around to keep the enthusiasm there and keep passing it on. And like you said, we might all have our different strands. We can't all do everything, but there's enough people with the enthusiasm for to keep inspiring others, basically.
Absolutely, and that's what it's all about. I think music education. I think that's a really lovely sentence to sort of sum everything up, isn't it? It is about inspiring the next
Absolutely.
generation. And from where I am teaching people of all ages, it's not just the next generation, but it's everybody you come into contact with, isn't it? If
Yeah.
I can inspire somebody to take up an instrument in retirement, or follow their dreams of a career in music from higher education, this is a job well done, and surely the reason we do it.
Yeah, well, we had a little chat yesterday, didn't we? And it was all about, we had a little discussion about obviously COVID-19, which is, again, the arts and music and creative subjects were massively promoted during that as to help everyone's like well-being, health and well-being. So it's the importance of them actually, I think, shone through during the current situation, even like with exercise and baking, and as well as the arts and theatre being streamed and all the music videos that have happened virtually. It kind of, I think, shone a little bit of a light that they needed,
Yeah,
and
absolutely, and I hope the people in power realise this. And I know the union, certainly the Musicians Union and Incorporated Society of Musicians, are lobbying government very much to keep the arts on the table and keep them well funded post COVID. I would hope that the teaching unions are doing the same. Do you know if that's the case?
no, I've not really had anything at the minute. I know they've done like little bits of questionnaires gone out, but not had kind of responses back. But as I said, I'd like to think that people have been inspired by what's carried on during lockdown and what people have done to keep themselves engaged and learning and happy, and that will all, I think, actually help the
Yeah,
current music.
and yeah, absolutely. It's given a real sort of buzz about it, and hopefully we can return from this and make things better and stronger and maybe more positive than they were before. And it falls upon, as I keep saying, it falls upon us all really, to be busy working collaboratively, and all the people who know how important this stuff is. We need to be working together and
Yeah,
making the opportunities available for everybody, not just children, but everybody to be involved with. And I think we're very lucky with MWO having such a strong and forward-thinking committee to make things work, and I really do think we can. Gareth says, I remember my daughter being in the Hampshire Wind Orchestra, and there was a parallel string orchestra they occasionally joint performances with. Absolutely. I mean, we do quite a lot of collaborative performances, mainly with other wind bands, but it would be interesting to mix with a brass band or a string orchestra or
yeah.
something like that. That's
It's like you were saying about getting different types of people together as well, getting the different instruments and different styles, different genres. You still got that same music, shared love, I suppose, isn't it?
absolutely, yeah. Ellie says there is a difference between Zoom music, where the techies rule, and live performance, where the buzz kicks in. You're absolutely right. The buzz of performing live, I quite honestly think, is addictive. I think I'm addicted to the buzz of playing live. And when I've got a full calendar of gigs, I might be out 3 or 4 times a week, every week performing. And that, I love it. I thrive off it. I really do. But the remote recording sessions I've been booked to do, and the virtual performances we've all done, has really kept me going during lockdown, because it's given me a reason to keep practicing and keep performing at the top of my game. And that's been very important. But I think we can all agree that we're very much looking forward to getting back to live performance,
Definitely.
and coming back together, just as your students will be looking forward to coming back and working together with you in the classroom. And we're looking forward to getting back to playing again, and hopefully as soon as it's safe, we'll be able to do that. and we are now going to do it with a renewed enthusiasm for music education, thanks to our chat with Sarah Lofthouse. So, Sarah, thank you very much for this evening.
Thank you. It's been good. Really nice just to talk things through and obviously see things from different perspectives.
Yeah, it certainly is, and I hope everybody's enjoyed listening. A big thanks to Chris Horswood, who has been the techie who rules this Zoom session. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be on the quiz next week, and then the week after that, I'm back talking to Bill Casey, who is one of the longest-serving members of the band, and he joined about the same time I did 30 years ago. And we're going to discuss the development of the band because he was particularly instrumental in that and very supportive when I took over the baton as well. So if you want to know the history of MWO for the last 30 years, tune in a fortnight's time. But for now, we'll see you next time. Thank you all very much.
Thank you very much.
Stay safe. Bye. Bye. Bye.